what's your advice for guys in your 30s? And I always said the same. It's like, don't allow life and all the shit that's been thrown at you over the years to turn you bitter.
I was with the singer Ray. She sings that Prada song that's pretty famous. We were with her at our courtside seats, all through using social circle concept. I truly feel that the strength of a man is in his emotional regulation.
My first business idea to become a professional poker player so I could make like $50 a day and have a free life.
This concept called value arbitrage. It's introducing two people that have certain types of value to each other, and it's a 2 + 2 = 5 kind of concept.
The following is a conversation with Luke Krogh, international and very, very well-renowned social circle teacher, one of the most elite social circle teachers out there in the world, and he's also an ex-colleague of mine from the crazy dating and personal development times from back in the days. And he re-emerged from his absence of years of not posting and not being public anywhere, and he's now on the Max Tornow podcast. Without any further ado, enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, you've been crushing it. You've obviously been doing the business thing for the business consulting mentorship for a while. For me, it was a longer transition through this, exiting RSD and whatnot. But for me, it's, it was interesting when I started working with RSD, what I was coaching pre-RSD to what I was coaching in RSD to now what I'm doing for my clients now and for myself now. It's always been the same thing. It's always been the same networking, social circle, branding, kind of concept. Personal branding before it became this Instagram personal branding kind of, right? That's how I build a social circle and how I lead through and get some of the cool things that you see on my Instagram and some of the things that I don't show. It's how I get a lot of that to occur. And it's just kind of matured over the years. And just really, how can I basically figure out how I can package that content up into a way where other people can deploy rather than just, how I've been able to do it myself. It's always been kind of about that same thing.
Yeah, it's cool to see that you're crushing it. It's cool to see that, you've taken what you've always taught to a whole new level and, you've really, really progressed on that field. And it was funny just to kind of like tell you from my perspective. So we're both together in RSD many years ago. We're crushing it in Hawaii together, which was, dude, hands down, one of the best times in my life. Us in Hawaii. Remember how you met my girlfriend, with whom I'm still together, and we're just having so much fucking fun. Just
the most fun, bro. It would not be a lie to say I think about a couple of those Hawaii. The one specific Hawaii trip where we went shark diving. I probably think about that trip. Me, you, the girl I was dating, the girl you were dating. That girl became the mother of my 3 kids. You're still dating yours. I think about that trip probably once every 3 days or something. It pops into my head. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like it's different. I remember we'd have this weird. We'd be waiting for Owen for something. We're about to go to something, and then like the 4 of us would just be like sitting at some random restaurant shooting the shit.
The waiting for Owen was very prevalent.
Yeah. But then it would just be. I just remember like various. It felt like that month-long trip or 3-week was like 6 months in Hawaii of like Max and Luke fucking around Hawaii. It was kind of a funny thing. So yeah, I mean, those were some good memories for sure.
Dude, I remember you were the first one who just used the iPhone to shoot underwater videos. And that was like the old iPhone that was splash resistant, but not water resistant.
Can I tell you something hysterical about that? We went shark diving. I'm like, fuck it. Like, let's just what better time to try it?
We had the GoPro, the waterproof, and you're just like with the iPhone, just like underwater filming the sharks. It was so good.
Trying to stabilize it. What's funny about that is that footage came out great. A week later, a little bit of rain got on my iPhone, and then my iPhone broke because of the rain, but not because Remember that cage that was around us? Yeah. So I went shark diving again in Florida not too long ago. Greg Kinobody, he's in my mastermind, and we were discussing these like shark diving things to do with women and cool guys that aren't nightclubs, basically, right? So I was like, you know what? I went shark diving with Max once. Let's do that again. And I just remember them telling us on that trip, the cage is not real. Like, I don't know if you remember, but the sharks would swim through the cage. And I would just be like, this.
They're underneath us.
And they were like, it's just to make the tourists feel comfortable. And actually, the sharks can kind of be malleable through the thing. It was kind of a funny thing. But it was a fun time.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. So from that moment on, we had a good time shooting the shit, and then I started doing kind of my own thing, left RSD very amicably, which I want to kind of emphasize this point as well. And then you just kind of got like sucked into the underworld. I never heard or seen of you for years. And then I see you pop up on Greg, a common friend of ours, Kino Body. I see you pop up on his Instagram. I'm like, holy shit, Luke's alive. Holy shit, Luke is shredded too. Like, I was like, is this like Gandalf the Grey who falls down into the mines of Moria and then fights the Balrog and then comes out a year later as Gandalf the White? That was kind of like Luke the fat guy came back as Luke the shredded guy years later. So, dude, what happened? What have you been like? Walk me through. We're in RSD, blackout to now. What happened in between?
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned the word blackout because that was kind of the transition, right? I mean, it got to a point where, you know, I was living this Vegas party lifestyle in RSD, and you know, it got to be completely frank. I had to basically completely do a 180 with my life. I mean, like every life, like I had a great ability to get guys into nightclubs, in, you know, complimentary bottle service, and it was kind of this like nightlife world that I'd kind of gotten to the top of, if you will. But along with that, I mean, I joined RSD. I don't know if you remember, but people said they only brought Luke in because he's fat. You know, they have a short guy, they have a fat guy, they have the bald ginger. Now, you know, and I joined at 250. I left RSD at 360. I gained 110 pounds in RSD, right? So, you know, it was just very gluttonous, whether it was drinking or whether it was eating. I was like, you know what, I just need to take a big pivot. So I essentially shut off all external, you know, I did a full dopamine fast, if you will, right? Just kind of shut off all external things. You know, RSD, you know, again, you know, more than amicable, especially Owen. And I just basically took, what I did is I told the guys this: I'm going to do a done for you customized Soul Circle plan. I'm going to get myself distance from all of the external things that are there. And I just started doing a 30-day or longer implementation of Social Circle for 4 guys. Well, I got super healthy. So I just counted all my macros. I got a trainer, everything. To this day now, everything is tracked from my steps, my calories, my protein, my carbs, things that guys like you and Mario Tomic were telling me for a long time is actually really easy. Like I thought a food scale, I have a computer science degree, but I thought a food scale was the most complicated thing in the world. I was like, how can I weigh my food? That's crazy. And then my trainers, you know, I got a trainer, I got a mentor who looked how I wanted to look. And I just did literally everything he said, you know, like everything else in life, right? So it took about 18 months to be sober, to lose the weight, then gain the muscle. And then recently, I started to be more public with some of my mastermind clients, my done for you clients. You know, pretty much any guy that has an online personality of him and girls, you know, him and doing that, you know, that kind of lifestyle, whether it's Greg, Iman, Ty, pretty much anybody who's lived that kind of lifestyle, learned that originally from me. And I was just implementing that for guys. I mean, even recently, you know, fast forward to a couple of things recently, you know, I was with the singer, Ray. You know, she sings that Prada song that's pretty famous. We were with her at our courtside seats, all through using Soul Circle concepts. I have a box suite at the Barclays. You know, I have that literally through Soul Circle concepts. Greg is actually coming tomorrow, no, day after tomorrow for the Ryan Garcia fight. Yeah, and so just basically a way for, I took 2 years, hey, I just got to get healthy, just focus on making sure that I'm implementing for clients the right way. And then, you know, I knew if I got fat, you know, the same way that I got fat was dedication to eating, and I could dedicate myself to getting healthy, basically. So, and I knew, and it was funny because I didn't want to. It was like at 50 pounds weight loss, I actually felt fatter because then I actually see the weaknesses more. It's like, you know, it's like the more you know, the less you know. So I actually got more insecure the healthier that I got. So I just it just dedicated me into working harder.
I mean, that was one of my favorite things about you, that you were fat, funny Luke, right?
It was like, and eventually I kind of morphed into this like Russian GTA strip club owner kind of looking. I had like a ponytail,
like a literal character. Yeah.
I was this literal like meme character of myself. The problem, you know, and I loved kind of how every hate comment on my old YouTube videos were like, look at this fat ass getting girls, like this fat ass. It's like you either use money to get girls, you're either fat to get girls. There's always like, you know, it's always, you know what I mean? It's like, so now they're like, you only have success with these, you know, these high level, high status things because now you're in really good shape. It's like, you know, you almost just can't win to like that, you know,
exactly.
the pop-up. But it was kind of funny because I just realized, you know, you know what it was having daughters, right? It was like, you know, it was daughters, and there was a couple things that I don't know if you know Wes Watson, but a couple of things, you know, I'd met him once, and Wes Watson, he's like this bearded guy who yells at the camera, get off your fucking ass kind of guy. Oh. And, you know, ex-prison kind of guy. And, and anyway, there's this one thing he had said. He goes, you know, if your daughter brought you home, would you be impressed? Like, would you be happy? And the answer was no. You know, I was this fat schlub. So yeah, it was like fun and funny, you know, in your 20s to kind of be running around nightclubs in different cities.
Yeah.
You know, the cons, you know, I was getting guys results, but at the same time, I just wasn't proud of who I was. Like, depending on how deep you want the conversation to go, it was, you know, 4 hours a week of therapy. It was getting really honest with myself about just the actions I had taken and how I was coming across.
Yeah, dude, and I want to dive a little bit deeper on that as well in a second here. But you know, you mentioned, because I remember last time we spoke, you just got a daughter, like it was your first child, and now you got three. Congrats, man! I'm so happy for you. And it's funny because I've had, I would say, since 2019 onwards, from 2019 till summer last year, summer 2023, I was very much in my own cocoon, very much in my own shell. I was like, I don't need anybody, leave me alone, just here, hustle, build up the thing, and once it's all done, I kind of like get back out of my cave and like rekindle all my old friendships, including yours, you know? And as I did that, I started talking to a lot of my old buddies from back in the dating days, and they were all like, you know, people that would go out and party and have a lot of girlfriends and all that jazz, like you, like I, like all of them. And literally all of them now have family, kids. They're like the nicest dads. They all have daughters, which is funny. So I got Julian.
Funny, right?
Yeah, Julian has 2 kids now. Shout out to him. I hope I'll get him on the podcast as well. We're both so busy. Matteo DM, also an ex-dating coach from Germany, whom I looked up to. He got a daughter now. She's 2 years old. He was on the podcast, talked about it, got married, all that jazz. Yesterday I had Rohan Sheth on, who's obviously one of the craziest entrepreneurs of our time right now, especially in the digital marketing space. And he was talking a lot about, you know, being a family father, and now you is there as well. And, you know, I'm 33 now, and I'm like, talking to my girlfriend, and I'm like, hey, like 2 more years, and then let's get kids. Let's get tons of kids. Let's get you the kids. Like, get ready. Like, get ready. You're gonna bear me a lot of children, girl. I'm really, really excited about that. So in this regard, really lovely to see that you're crushing it in that field as well. Now, what made you leave RSD? You mentioned that you did it very amicably, but also what were kind of like your thought patterns there?
Yeah, it was, you know, it was tough because my first year in RSD, I was like, it was almost like the Wolf of Wall Street, I'm never fucking leaving kind of moment. You know?
Yeah, same for me.
It was my first year. I mean, I'd been friends with Owen for a few years earlier. You know, I'd probably taught 400, maybe just under 400 boot camps before I'd joined RSD, right? I was working with, you know, I originally learned from Richard Larina, Gambler, Adam Lyons, you know, who I give a lot of credit to with a lot of the social stuff that I do now. And it was interesting because the framework was solid enough where the structure was there, where, you know, when you and I were first coaching within RSD, the framework was solid enough where we could operate and do what we needed to do. But it was also so loose that it felt like, I mean, you know, it was so loose and chaotic that at least for that time period of my life, it fit very well. And then I think what ended up happening is certain people grew in different ways. And the structure that was RSD just didn't age well, to be honest. You know, I mean, the craziest thing about how RSD morphed and changed and ended and did what it did is it left room for a much creepier version of the whole pickup artist thing, right? Like every day I was in it, you know, I was like, I had this love-hate relationship with what the pickup artist movement was, because it was this game. I mean, I read the book The Game and the 4 Hour Work Week in the same, you know, pretty much the same day, I think, right? And plowed through both. And I was like, this is kind of the weirdest thing I could possibly think of, but also it's a gateway drug into all these other self-improvement ways. And at the end of the day, all pickup really was making some jokes and approaching and talking to girls. Like at the end of the day, people like to demonize it, and you know. It's like I'm the last person who's going to judge some guy who's even to this day the weirdest pickup coach in the world who's probably still trying to do it. I'm still like, hey, you know what? Like someone has to get a guy to talk to a girl he doesn't know before. But then what it did is it kind of left this vacuum for this much creepier, you know, like red pill podcast bash women. You know, like what the manosphere became is much more something that I can't really stand for than what we were doing back. You know, what we were doing it was a very simple version of getting out of your own way. What it is now is this, like, you know, women's like this red pill aware women look at their natural tendencies to be complete whores. That's why you should have confidence instead of just building yourself up. You know, so, you know, it's interesting. Like leaving RSD for me was a much longer process than it was for you, because for me, I was like, when I leave RSD, I'm going to stop coaching in that regard. I'm just going to implement social circle concept for people. But then what I realized is there's just a large group of guys that that really need the type of lifestyle that I have. So that's why it's my legacy. I mean, I've been coaching for 15 years at this point.
I mean, when did you leave ours? Did you leave it before me or after me? I can't even remember.
I think we all, I mean, to be frank, right? Like we all left it like mentally earlier than we actually like left it. And I would say that's true for every single person, even the people kind of sort of in it now. It's like, at a certain point when, I mean, RSD, what a lot of people publicly don't realize is RSD had changed so many times before. I would even say in Hawaii at one of those Hawaii trips with you, I was telling myself that if it keeps going in this direction, there's no way that I can still operate kind of in this environment. They almost needed to, at a certain point, hire new coaches and have this, and like it almost needed to age in just a different way, right? So I would say that I publicly left RSD much later than you, but then at the same time, the conversations were had that it was the writing was on the wall for sure.
Okay. I also want to kind of like mention here to them, like there was a period of time where I really tried to also like internally for my brain wanted to distance myself from the content, not in a bad way, not in like, oh, I don't want to hang out with you guys anymore, but just like, hey, I've moved on. I've done a new project now, which back then was freedom business mentoring, which is what I'm still doing now. And I'm like, like when you break up with a girlfriend that you really, really loved for a very long time, and you say, hey, in order for this to work, we gotta just not be in touch for a while.
No contact.
Exactly. No contact. And that was it for me. And then I just like about last year around this time, I started watching especially Owen's content again. And I gotta say, holy fuckity do, it's good. Like, because I expected it to be like, yeah, they're probably still gonna talk about the old concepts, and looking at Owen, and I'm like, holy shit! It's like this guy kept reinventing himself, and the version that I watch now, I watch almost all of his videos again, just like I used to watch when I was just some fucking nobody in 2009. Like just out of just university, and what I'm completely consuming his content again. And I really just want to say, like, I really don't want to come across as this like ungrateful dude that, made a ton of money and crushed it with RSD and now just fucks off, because I still think like I would never be where I am right now if it hadn't been for RSD. I would never be where I am right now if Owen wouldn't have given me a chance. Or Julian would have taken me on a fucking world tour, or, you have collaborated with me and all that. Like, I owe every single one of you guys not only a large chunk of my career, but also all of us, really all of us, have been such fucking brothers in arms, and we were all sharing our plight, and we're sharing the highs and sharing the lows, because I also think there was a stage in my career as an international dating coach where the only people on earth that could relate to me were like the 6 guys that are like me, which is like you, Julian, Owen, Jeffy, Madison, and so on and so forth. Like there was nobody else, because it was just fucking us.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we would see when we'd see each other, I would say a lot of times it'd be very intense but infrequent, because we're all traveling around the world doing our own thing, and then we all have our own bases. But yeah, I mean that's kind of a, as we get older, and as as I have kids, as you eventually have kids, you start to kind of look back on those experiences and those relationships with a lot more value, because like they really did shape who you are now, being in Cyprus and then being in New York. It's like it really did shape a lot of these things. So I mean, I share that gratefulness. I always kind of used to say I was never like super pro RSD at the beginning, to be honest. I was always pro Owen. So like, I mean, his concepts, to be frank, like the company structure of RSD was actually kind of less relevant to me than it was the people inside of it. It was you and Owen, the content. I mean, those 3 letters could have been anything, which is why I don't shy away from saying those. I think sometimes I'll hear people now kind of refer to it as like that company, or that thing that we did. And in reality, I'm there's nothing that I ever put out that I'm not proud of. There's nothing that I ever put out that I feel like didn't help a lot of people. And that pretty much everybody in that company, from low level interns to pretty much, again, even the people in the company that I don't talk to anymore, still contributed to who I am. And I talked to Owen in LA maybe a month ago. We talk on WhatsApp fairly decent amount. So, I mean, I agree with you on that. I think at the end of the day, it's about finding like what's your future trajectory and how you can help yourself and your clients best. I think that's kind of where you and I both kind of went like this, and then now kind of coming more together. It's how does it mature into something that best helps yourself and best helps your clients and the people around you.
Exactly. That was like one of the concepts that was throughout the entire company and probably still is, this all like is like over deliver. Like whatever the fuck you do, just fucking over deliver, make the best out of it. And it was funny because like you said, like from the lowest level free intern all the way up to the CEO, we all kind of, it was not just a company where people went to work. It was like, I need a job, It was a company where everybody believed in the same thing. Like everybody would go out and work on their social skills. Everybody would like practice crucial conversations and all that shit. And it was, I mean, again, like just to touch back, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but like whenever we got together at least twice a year, at least from my end, because I was like the Euro RSD dude, the 2 times a year we got together in Vegas and Miami for summits. It was such madness. I mean, dude, remember when all of us instructors went together to the infamous instructor dinners? We would just like go to like the 5-star steakhouses, and it would just be this huge round table with all of us. And we're all just like swearing and laughing, and we're all sober. That was a funny thing. Like none of us would drink, but we would behave just so loudly and fun. We were like hooligans of love, how we would always call it. And then you would see like an elderly couple for their like having a romantic
anniversary
dinner.
or whatever.
Yeah, like anniversary, and they're like complaining, like, "Who are these men? They're so loud on the table next to us." It's so good.
It was kind of funny because it was like sharing 6 months of war stories with each other. It's like we all went to war and came back and shared the stories, which like sometimes it's almost like we all lived parallel lives just separately and then came together. I always thought it was funny when people tried to like call it a cult and then call it not a cult when it was like very clearly a cult that we just like believed in. I looked at it as like a ship that we're all building, and we're like building this ship, and we're not really sure where the ship is going to go necessarily, but we're all, again, like I think what kind of made those dinners, like the ruckus and the rowdiness of it and the intensity of it, what made that all work is that at the end of the day, it was truly just about helping people. The amount of times I would see, it'd be pretty funny. I remember on almost every workshop, I remember Owen would coach a student that wasn't on the boot camp just because the guy needed there'd just be a guy lingering that he thought was kind of, and he would like tell that guy to do this, and the guy was just look at him like, what? With his beer in his hand. Just, yeah, got it, yeah. And then the guy just starts taking action. It was actually kind of funny. So, I mean, like on one hand, it was like rowdy ruckus, and it was what it was. But on the other hand, it definitely instilled this belief that I just want to help these guys, especially as I just aged.
Yeah, man. Dude, how old are you now, by the way? I don't even know.
I'm 36.
Dude, so you went through a transition of looking older, and now you look super young again. Like it's so crazy, man.
Yeah, people like it's weird on my Instagram now. People like it's literally the weirdest comment to actually like register in my mind is these Benjamin Button comments where people are like, well, "We didn't think you losing weight would make you look 10 years younger."
Literally, dude.
The easiest way to lose weight the easiest way to look younger or apparently gain inches on your dick is just lose 160 pounds. If they would tell me that was the real anti-aging or the real penis cure, I would have just lost weight quicker. Been more motivated.
So, dude, you lost 160 pounds?
Yeah, I mean, I lost 150, then I built some muscle and then lost it. Yeah, so
let me check.
In total, I lost 160.
Let me check how much that is in kilos because I'm European. So, okay, 68 kilos. I weigh 72 kilos. That's about like 160. So you lost my body weight, basically. Like that was like a Max Tornow strapped to your body, and you just lost it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So I've always taught social circle for to meet high status men and attractive women. It was always both, right? And it was always funny to me thinking just how when I was younger, how judgmental I would be. I mean, it was so funny to think that I would only date petite, thin women, and here I am just like this like a large sloppy like whale of a man, and like how I like them. It's funny how I'll see men not think that they actually truly deserve results with their business or with in your case or with women or with high status friends, and thinking just this like delusional confidence you have to have at the beginning in order to power through, like you and just kind of thinking about just how important that is, because Well, me at 360 pounds, if there was a girl who had, any sort of issue whatsoever, I like it. To me now, it was just off the table, right? Like the level of quality that I feel like I deserved was so high that was partly how I got the success. A lot of, I mean, there was no, especially when it comes to dating, just pure dating perspective, I never had better results than I did at 350 pounds. It's whether you're 5'2", 350, whatever the thing is that you think is your biggest problem. That doesn't, it's funny enough how, yes, fix, feature what you can't fix, but if you can fix something, fix it. But especially with health, weight loss, gaining muscle, that's something that takes that takes time, right? It has to have consistency over a period of time. I think a lot of men can also just get the result get it faster.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you touched on a really interesting point there, where you said, like, your best results were when you were the fattest, and it was almost. I don't want to use the word delusional, but it was almost like, when you coaching dating at such a high level, you kind of got to be delusional. For you, it was like your weight. For me, it was my height, because I'm relatively short. I'm 172 centimeters, which is like 5'6" or something like that. And for me, I needed a humbling experience on the business side to really kind of balance out I'm a funny, great guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I had to eat a lot of shit in my professional career to become the person that I am right now, which is kind of like delusional on one side, but also having the necessary humility to be open, keep learning, and take feedback. What kind of was the humbling, the thing that made you humble enough to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, so if it wasn't, I would say, it's back to kind of the kid thing that you bring up. I mean, I would definitely say it's two things, right? It was, I had so much external success from my ability to create these social circles. I mean, I remember one of the biggest wins that we had it was creating a social circle around cannabis. It was literally a social circle with a wholesale cannabis company, and that cannabis company ended up selling or being valued at, and then having different sales and different things go through for over $1 billion. And it was all through the social circles that we had. I mean, obviously it was through quality products, but the way that they grew was all through social circles with different dispensaries. It was a 24-month plan based on our social circle concepts, right? All of the validation, the social validation, the female attention that you strive for when you're in your early 20s, then you get in your late 20s, all of that. It was interesting. It was like a pendulum had to swing the other way. And for me, it was pure health. I mean, at 360, at a certain point, for example, I organized this helicopter trip with me, a client, and a bunch of girls, and I weighed too much to even go in the helicopter.
Oh no.
It's an embarrassing story, but now looking back, I can talk about it. But like, I literally weighed too much. They had to go off on a helicopter trip because I literally, because of the safety of the mechanism in that helicopter, I couldn't go on the helicopter that I had arranged and sort of, right? I mean, you're talking, there was a point where they almost made me have to have the airplane, like double seatbelt. Like every fat like meme or analogy or funny thing that we can think about happened to me. And it was a point where it was literally how much worse can this get, right? I was going to have to end up having like an episode on Bravo of like this fat guy like going around the world kind of thing, And then again, it's like for your friends, your family, your kids, your clients, who do you want to show up as? And, I took a literal look in the mirror and realized, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, right? And it was always a concept like that for me. And it was like, all right, well, how do I fix this? And it's clarity, vision, decision. I was making all these decisions, but I have clarity around who I actually wanted to be and who I want to show up as. So it was a lot of nightclub social circles because that's just how I came up with these concepts. But I didn't realize that I could use these same concepts to sit courtside at a Nets game or to, which is kind of a lot of the stuff that we're doing now is not so much nightlife focus, but much higher level focus. And what happened is once I realized this clarity, vision, decision, it was clarity around who I wanted to be, clarity around who I wanted to show up as, create the vision for myself and my clients. And then the actual, once I had the clarity and vision, the decision became very simple.
Damn. So it's always fucking interesting to see kind of like people's, I recently made a YouTube video about like a character arc of myself. Kind of I had to relay my story and stuff like that. And this like typical character arc thing is like, in the beginning, it's just him. Then there's the call to adventure. Then the mentor, different trials and tribulations. Then there's the abyss. and then you have to get through that abyss, and now you're a different person, and then it kind of goes back to where you were before, right? This like fucking character circle thing, and it's always interesting to see that in other people. So for me, it looks like, you know, young Luke learned how to do a social circle, gets better, works for all these awesome dating companies, builds this brand, and then you get better and you get better, and then it feels to me, at least judging by what you just said, that abyss was the thing that you hit, and then you had to reinvent yourself over the last year. So now you kind of re-emerged, and you're you're a better fucking version, which is great. Now here's the crazy thing though. I also conversely see a lot of people that enter that abyss and never get out of it. What do you think? What's the difference between people who made it out and people who didn't make it out?
I think the first thing to realize that it's harder, right? Like, you know, it's a lot of 2 steps backwards to go 3 steps forward, and a lot of times they get caught up. I mean, it depends how like energetic we want to get with it, but for me, one of the first things I ended up having to do without realizing it was therapy. I mean, I just did 4 hours a week actually of therapy. 4 hours a week is not nothing; it's pretty intense. But just kind of trying to, it's almost like a defragging of a hard drive, kind of, right? If you're not at where you want to be, whether it's business, right, in your situation, whether it's fitness, like my fitness coach, whether it's social circle, like what I do, you have to. There's roadblocks that are at play. It's not harder work oftentimes, right? It's not even necessarily like the right steps. It's pulling these roadblocks that we have. We almost have to kind of defragment the hard drive, and doing that for different, you know, whether it's, you know, with Julian with his trauma release kind of content. For me, it was a lot of why am I doing the things that I'm doing, and kind of unpacking things. So it was just like traditional therapy was the first thing. And there was many moments in that traditional therapy that I could have just stopped. It would have been easier mentally. You know, I didn't have to like actually face the mistakes I made in the past, or the traumas from, you know, childhood, or as you're growing up and things like that. So I think what it is again, it's that clarity, vision, decision. It's to actually not get stuck in that abyss. You have to go through the fear of it. It's like fight. It's like there's what is it? Fight, flight, but then it's also there's fawn, fight, flight. There's another F there, so like the 4 Fs of it. And you kind of, again, it's like spiral dynamics. I mean, after therapy, what I realized I really need to get into was energetic work, right? And just kind of unpack and put words to the emotions. It's one thing to just work harder, grind set, hustle set, you know, that kind of whole mentality. But it's another when in that abyss, everything just it's almost like an avalanche that happens. You don't know which way is actually up, and you're just kind of digging around in the snow. So you need a very clear plan, whether it's a breakup, a business, a social circle, whatever the thing is you're trying to solve. You need that clarity around it, and that will get you through that abyss. The abyss was painful. It's why part of me wants to release a lot of content, because I shot videos around the whole process, and whether it was iPhone or proper video. And part of the thing for me, it was almost I had to build this castle kind of around myself, or a moat around myself in order to go through that abyss, which is why I wasn't just like actually documenting that entire process publicly, because I don't think I would have solved it if I was documenting the process publicly. I think what ends up happening if guys are in that abyss, they have to really they have to realize that they're just at a certain level of energy, right? You have to realize, you know, are you dealing with pure desire, shame, guilt, pride? You know, what's the real reason on why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and then how do you solve that? And it emotionally and mentally, it again, going to the gym, for example, it's not going to necessarily feel good at the beginning. I mean, it felt it's like why there's like memes on like fitness pages, right? If you look at my Explore page is a lot different than my Explore. I always say just screenshot your Explore page if you actually want to tell somebody like where your mindset is at. Is it all watches? Is it all tits and ass? Is it all fitness? You know, like you can pretty much sum up what somebody needs to do to fix their life by just screenshotting their Explore page on IG. And for the abyss, it's like facing the things that you don't want to face, you know, just realizing that it's not going to be an overnight thing, but it also isn't a forever thing.
The craziest part about that abyss is when you expect there to be an abyss and you're just like, I'm out now, I'm good for the rest of my fucking life. That's where it gets really dangerous. That was the case for me. Like my first abyss was I'm the awkward, socially weird Max. And I'm like, okay, so that's my abyss. And then I worked through that, and then I became world-renowned dating coach, traveled the world, made millions. And I'm like, that's it. Like, I already got over my abyss in my early 20s, and then turns out there was like another one and another one and another one. And every
Exactly.
iteration of it is deeper and darker and fucking scarier than the one before. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
Um,
it's weird, right? I mean, for watching you, because I had, matured in my. I was interested watching you go through like so your progress in RSD and then exiting RSD and then into what you're doing now. It was interesting to watch your kind of progress with that because I had already set in stone so much of who I thought that I was earlier. I mean, we're only three years apart, but when I had started this, and then when I joined RSD, for example, and when I exited RSD, there really wasn't that much of a transformation for me. For example, it was I was very much set in my concepts. I was set in terms of what I wanted out of life. It's why I had my oldest daughter is 6. A lot of these things had like a lot of my, how do you put it, the like who I thought I was as a character. I was just going to be, again, I was very happy and content being the fat guy who has these great results, right? It's like kind of what the meme was on YouTube and what the whole thing was. For you, it was interesting watching your maturity level increase from this like youthful, fun, almost like boyish Max.
yeah.
I was always the like, oh, you seem like you're much older than your age. I remember you were this like fun-loving, boyish, to this like mature dating coach to then mature business consultant and business mentoring. It was interesting to kind of see that progression. Again, it's like you think that each abyss you've reached this like I've made it level, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
I mean, again, with fitness, it's like I thought the ones that reached a certain weight, that was like, all right, I'm going to be happy now and confident about how I look. And then it became harder, less confident, or an injury would happen, and it's like, wait, this was the what was behind the pearly gates. I mean, so you kind of have to. I think that's a concept to realize is you kind of have to always be realizing that like the next, the rock bottom is when you stop digging, right? It's like it's a thing, it's a concept they say, and it's like there's interesting. You can kind of take that concept to each one of these areas is realizing that dealing with those abysses, making those abysses smaller, and then deciding who actually do you want to be. Again, it's that clarity, vision, decision. Who actually do you want to be and shape yourself as will help you get through those because they're going to keep coming.
Dude, they're going to keep coming. And it's funny because we also mentioned Mario Tomic earlier, and he was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And he also says he's like fitness, money, career. They're not games meant to be won, but to be in them forever. And that's kind of like, I feel like, especially because, we come from the corner of teaching young men. Nowadays, it's changed a lot for you. It's changed a lot for me. Like the people that come to me, they're older men, women, and all that jazz. And it's the same for you. But I feel like this is especially like kind of like a mindset that a lot of young men have. They're just like, oh, let me just do this real quick for 2 years, and then I got it figured out, and then I never have to deal with it. They always come to it from a mindset of like, I just got to do this once. I just got to win this game, and then I got it forever, and everything is easy. But what they never realize is like part of growing up and of really, really maturing on a spiritual level, I guess, is realizing that there's no winning in this game. There's only a constantly being in the game forever, and that's totally fine, that there's no end to it all. And you really kind of grow into that idea of like you're never gonna reach a goal where you can then just sit on the couch with your 6-pack, eating, like falling back into eating Ben and Jerry's every day, falling back into old chody habits, and expecting your wife to still stick around, expecting your 6-pack to still stick around, expecting your business to still stick around. Like it's gonna fucking fall apart the moment you just rest on your laurels for too long. And that's totally fucking fine. It's a very much boyish idea to expect things to just become easy at some point. I would actually argue that things just become more and more fucking difficult the older you get and the more you mature. But, and here's the beauty of it, if you do it right and if you accept that challenge, you in turn become better, smarter, stronger, so you can deal with these things much better. I mean, I look at the problems that I'm solving right now, the issues that are thrown at me literally on a daily basis. They would have ruined an entire month for me back in the day. It's just mentally, I would dwell on them. I would turn them upside down in my head. I would not be able to sleep. And nowadays, I'm just like shaking off the biggest fucking problems, and I'm mastering them. And sure, not all of them I master right away. A lot of them I just fall on my face first. But ultimately, it's like that damned Bruce Lee quote of like, don't pray for an easy life, pray for a difficult life and the strength to endure one.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting, right? And the thing to understand with that is you have to always be okay. Like if you're not okay with that, then life is going to drag you through it anyway. It's like your first
Yeah.
breakup is the hardest, even, is always the hardest one. Or the first, business partner that fucks you, you end up thinking that that's going to be like you think that that is it's interesting, right? Like I remember a couple of things that I thought had happened to me where a business partner or a client takes your, like the very first time a client like repurposes your content, right, and then sells it, like
Yeah.
that you're like, how could this person possibly have done this? Like you feel this like betrayal, and then you talk to a business friend of yours that's much more successful, and that guy is dealing with an SEC issue, or that guy is dealing with 1,000 people who are ripping his content off, and then you
Yeah.
start to kind of put things in perspective, and then you just start to realize it's like the strength of a man is in the size of his problems, right? It's
Ooh.
oftentimes it's what's true is how emotionally regulated can you be? And that was something for me. I had all these manic ups and downs, and I realized that I had numerous people through this process either work for me, work with me, that were close to me, who basically created similar, competing, whatever type of, I mean, at the time that's how it felt, type of businesses, and feeling like there was like it happened to me. And then with each one, I realized, there's actions that I was taking that was causing this. So I had to be honest with myself about, well, wait, so what are the patterns here? How am I actually going to grow to be the person that I'm trying to be through this? At the end of the day, I'm a big believer in the extreme ownership, is everything's our own fault, right? So, and I didn't feel it in the past. And that was a big part of it with the thing with weight training, thing with health, is there's no finessing, right? There's no lying to yourself about it. With people, you can kind of make these stories up with yourself, right? Whether it's staff or clients or friends or whatever, girls, we both have people that we know where every one of their exes is crazy, right? Well, every one of your exes is crazy. What, every girl you ever dated is crazy? Every single girl has, some sort of like legitimate, like psychological disorder. It might not be, So I think what ends up happening is it's extreme ownership. You have to realize that you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. And for me, it was realizing those patterns, and then everything, again, the problems just became bigger, but you're more equipped to deal with those problems.
And I want to tell at this point here, my girlfriend is crazy, all right? Just so you know, and I'm saying this already in a good way. I love her very much. She said she has the funniest crazy ever. Anyways, one thing that you mentioned is quite interesting, that you said that you gotta emotionally regulate yourself. And it's really funny because I met one of my ex-business partners the other day. Very, very successful guy, younger than me, makes way more money than me. I think they're making multiple 8 figures now per year. We're not at 8 figures with our company yet, and he's crushing it. And he said something very interesting. So I hadn't seen him in like 2 years. We hung out, and I'm just like joking around, like fun the whole time, like I am, when I'm hanging out with friends. And and he was just kind of like sitting there, like, and I'm like, what's up, man? Like, are you like intimidated? What's going on? And he turns over to me like in this weird fucking way. He's like, I think I'm just emotionally numbed from all the years in the business. And I'm like, fuck. I don't want to be like that. And then I thought, like, that really got in my head. And over the next couple of months since then, I've really been thinking about, like, have I emotionally numbed as well? Because I know I've emotionally numbed towards the bad stuff. It doesn't affect me as much. And I'm like, am I emotionally numb towards the good stuff as well? But for me, it's almost an opposite effect. Like, the more emotionally numb I get towards the bad stuff, or I'm just shaking it off, the more hypey, dipey, immature, funny I get when I'm feeling the good stuff. It's almost like it's like a boomerang. It's almost like a rubber band that it wants to snap back into the fun part much more easily. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you numbed? Or is it for you also that you're now easier to fall into this like funny, dopey?
So the abyss you talk about, there had to be a numbing period, because every single person that I saw that had the trainer that I have, who has the body that I'm probably 36 months away for, or something, from to achieving, or maybe even a little bit longer, right? Like, I had to numb myself in order to. The numbing yourself at first, I actually think is a protection mechanism to take the action, because, for example, I truly feel that the strength of a man is in his emotional regulation. Now, that doesn't mean you lose that childlike, that inner child that you have. It's a matter of who's in the driver's seat of you at that moment. So for example, if you wanted to be, I would argue that, and I know the guy that you're talking about, actually, it actually just clicked in my head who the person was that you were discussing. Talk about the most like stoic of all stoic, unemotional type people when he speaks. And it's interesting. It's like you have to decide who you want to be. I mean, the more emotionally numb I get to the joys, the highs and the lows, the more clear decisions I could make. But it's who's in the driver's seat. I still don't want to lose the inner child, the inner fun, the inner play. I remember there was when I was really in my physical growth stage, and then in terms of health, but then also the current business that I that we have. I would say no to all fun things. It was like, this wasn't even that long ago. It was like this ski trip that somebody invited me on. It wouldn't have really affected anything. 3 days, but I couldn't see like a real reason to do it. I was like, that's going to feel like such a waste of time. It's be so frustrating to me every minute, like a vacation, for example. Right.
Yeah.
Which is why, again, it's back to the kid thing. It's interesting because, pure child, like, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, they don't really care necessarily what the room looks like that they're in. They just come up with a way to play with the forks rather than necessarily they don't care if it's Tiffany's forks or if it's, plastic forks. They're just playing. They have this imaginative kind of feeling, which I think is something that we all can't lose. But at the end of the day, too, as men, I think it's like wanting to win. It's the up and down with our emotions, I find is the real strength of growing as a man, is realizing that the highs aren't as high as you think they're going to be, and the lows aren't as low as you think they're going to be. And that once you realize that, you can really then create more joy for yourself rather than those steak dinners that we used to have, those instructor dinners, for example. You can almost take that as a pill and a capsule, and then just take that. If you do emotionally regulate yourself properly, and then have those moments when you feel like you deserve them or want to have them. Because again, if you were as stoic and as almost, arguably sociopathic as the guy you're just talking about, maybe you'd be at 8 figures, but you'd have less joy, right? You really have to decide what's your metric for success and happiness for yourself, right? You could just be at the level business-wise right now, have kids, and arguably other people look at that as the most successful thing ever. But in your mind, do you have all these new heights that you want to reach? Would that be dissatisfying to you? You have to really take stock in what you want out of life. It'd be very, I took 2 years off social media, pretty much entirely off social media, and no website, and arguably did better revenue, arguably had a better business than I've ever had. Not even having, whereas I have all these business mentors telling me about these systems, different things in place, and implementing a lot of your concepts, for example. I would have, business wise, it would have definitely gone better and faster. But at the same time, would I put that energy and effort into fixing the internal things I needed to fix necessarily, right? It's a time and place kind of thing. So yeah, I think you can't lose the joyous, fun-loving, inner child. But I think especially, I only coach men for the most part, 25 to 50. For me, the emotional regulation is a big thing where you can't get too excited for the highs, you can't get too down on yourself for the lows, and you have to just stay true to the plan. I think it's a very emasculine trait to be so emotional all the time.
Yeah, amen. It's not about how much you make, it's how you make it. Just to get back to that point. I do want to say, though, I'm pretty sure that guy, the said guy, is still very, very happy, but he was just kind of like boring/bored. But I never want to get rid of that. Like, I've always been kind of like the hyper weird guy, and I don't think it will ever go away. So if I'm having a good time, I'm having a good time,
Yeah, and I think like I call it mattress or penthouse, right? It's like, are you like, on one hand, yes, you want to develop yourself into this person, but at the same time, can you entertain a girlfriend? Can you entertain a friend, whether you're on the blow up air mattress or you're in the penthouse? I don't think you or I are really that different than we were, running around nightclubs, sleeping on couches kind of thing either. Right. It's like, I have my spot in New York. You're in Cyprus right now. We have lots of clients and I have a call in a couple hours after this with my inner circle clients that I have. And it's like, at the same time, it's about going, like, I don't really feel like I'm in shape now as much as I didn't feel like I was fat before. Do you know what I mean? It's like, So the numbing thing is just kind of this thing of life where, getting this deal with the social circle set up in New York with, sports teams. It was this huge, 18-month plan to have set up. And it felt so I mean, literally every celebrity you can think of is within, is standing there next to you and talking to you and interacting with you, which was such a big goal, social circle wise, something I've been working on for a while. And it was so interesting how like not joyous I felt from that. It's like this podcast with you is just so much more fun than this thing that I kind of work to achieve for my inner circle clients. It's like, because there's almost this like, there's almost this, everyone's there for a reason. And yes, everyone there is successful. But again, I don't ever want to lose that either, right? It's like you don't really want to lose who you actually. Again, I remember a free tour. Some of the funnest times I ever had was a free tour with Julian in Seattle, or for a free tour with you, where it's like almost no plan going into it, and then I remember the comments because I have a pretty loud personality. Getting being extroverted was never my issue when it came to getting results. It was almost toning it down, to be honest. And I remember my laugh. People there'd almost be this like conspiracy in the comments of my laugh being fake, because I was like loud, obnoxious laugh. And I found myself in this emotional regulation kind of stage. Do I like literally thinking? Do I tone myself down? Do I become more stoic, like the guy that you're talking about? He's successful, so should you numb yourself? Should you be like that? And you kind of test it a little bit, and then you feel like you kind of have to, again, like green and growing and ripe and rotting. You have to decide, well, what is green and growing for yourself, and once you decide that, then you can take better action.
I mean, I think it's exactly what you say. It's this whole, like, you never want to kind of betray that true self of yours. You want to grow and you want to get better and you want to evolve, but at the same time, you never want to do it at the cost of what you truly actually want to be deep down inside. And I think, one of the reasons why I got all these crazy tattoos on such obvious spots, like I don't have my legs tattooed, I don't have my back tattooed. I pretty much started with my hands and my fingers, because I know, like, I got those when I think I got the first tattoo just before the natural, just before I made my first million. And then I was like, okay, now I'm crushing. Let me get my hands and my fingers. And I think more or less subconsciously or half consciously, the reason why I wanted to get them is like, I want to commit to this lifestyle of pure freedom. I never want to be putting myself with my back against a wall where I have to do something or be someone that I don't want to be just to make more money. So I'm like, if I get my fingers tattooed, there's no way back. There's like, I'm not going to be this whatever old school business owner that acts like, oh yes, indeed, Charles. Oh yeah. I'm like, no, I never want to fucking be that guy. So I'm going to be the guy.
You burn the boats at that point.
Exactly. I burned the boats kind of at this point. Exactly. And that was kind of cool. And I mean, ask me again in 10 years, but so far I'm not regretting it that I have the PlayStation buttons tattooed on my hands. So that's that. You mentioned your business earlier. I want to touch on that as well, but you said this like sports deal thingy. What is that exactly? Because that was really cool. And how did you get that? Because you said it was like a 16-month process.
Yeah, I mean, so basically how it starts is I for the clients that I have, right? So we actually just launched our more open program, our $99 a month program. But basically with the sports deal, well, let's start with that, right? So I have a mastermind, and I create these. A lot of guys would ask me, they're like, "Hey, how do I get invited to some of the social circle stuff that you're actually doing?" And I would coach them through the process, and the time that it would take, or the actual implementation, for me to actually do it myself would be much faster. So it basically is a done for you mastermind for guys who want the type of results that I have, right? And and my results kept growing in the sense that whether it was a certain music artist that I was trying to meet, or a client would try to meet, or I would set these targets and these goals, and then I would achieve them, and then just bring my clients into it, right, from the mastermind. I realized a lot of these guys are already successful. They don't need my help with their business. They're fit. They don't need my help with their fitness, right? And I'm probably not the person, especially at the time, to do that. But what I can do better than anybody else is get you around the highest status men and the most attractive women, even after you get into a relationship, right? Again, it's I would say a good 10 to 25% of my clients are in relationships and they want to network for some other reason. So what I do is I show them how to tweak their personal brand and how to network and get into those rooms. One of the ways that we've done that is with this concept called value arbitrage. It's introducing two people that have certain types of value to each other. And it's a 2 + 2 = 5 kind of concept. So, for example, with the Barclays Stadium in New York, where the Brooklyn Nets play, Bad Bunny just performed. Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney fight is in a couple days. What I was able to set up through, again, 18 months of conversations and deals in place and things like that. I was able to get us courtside seats. There's a VIP lounge access, things like that, and then bring it to my clients. In my I basically documented on my Instagram, and in our initial program, I actually show people like the videos and kind of how I was able to do it. But more so than that, it's about deciding. Again, that's a very like flashy kind of thing. It's more about if you're in a smaller city, or if you're in a place that doesn't necessarily have it's not like New York. The social circle that you want might be a little bit different, right? And it's about coming up with what that is. But again, I truly believe it's the best way to meet attractive women. It's the best way to meet investors for the app that you're trying to develop, just genuine friendships, genuine connections. At this point, I think a lot of the men that are in my mastermind, I mean, you mentioned Greg earlier. At this point, none of the guys in my program would you ever really think need the types of advice that I'm giving. But it's the nuanced step-by-step practice to get around the types of people. It's kind of like the abyss that we talked about earlier, or the things kind of get harder as you get more successful. Yeah. Again, some of the, I literally I take 2 or 3 guys from my $100 a month program, and I'll invite them into a box suite that costs, $20,000 to $40,000. The other day, I brought a guy in my mastermind, my core mastermind. I brought this guy again. It's a $90 program, and I brought him courtside seat with, again, it's the seat is worth $30,000, $40,000, and I have him sit there interacting with people that he probably would have never interacted with, before, doing his, trying to figure out on his own. So we have things like that every week. We have things like that every month. We have private dinners. We have a little bit crazier parties, different things like that I invite the clients into.
Dude, sounds so freaking epic, man. Sounds so epic. And hey, real quick, this episode is sponsored by nothing. It's sponsored by you. I got my own business. Maybe I will do sponsorings at some point if I really find something I believe in. But thank you very much for watching. Listen, if you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, only thing I'm asking you is, number one, to give us a 5-star rating, drop a comment. It really, really helps us rank higher. That means also I can get better, even more awesome guests on. Man, the guests I have on are pretty freaking awesome already, but it helps us grow the channel and reach more people. And then the second thing I'm asking you for is to share this episode. If you're enjoying this so far and you got a friend that you think can also profit from that, please send the link, share him, and tell them I said hi. So thank you so much for that. And now, without any further ado, let's crack right into it. What brings you to London all the time? Because I know, like, we've talked about doing this podcast in person as well, and we might do it in London next time. So what's the deal with that city?
To me, London is one of my top 5 cities that I think that for a man in his 20s or 30s should be living in. It's a New York of Europe. I have a lot of clients in London. London is a very social circle-able place. There's all the private members clubs. We can get our clients access to all the top members clubs. It's a city that has again, it's like a New York. It's like the top 5% of people are either the most attractive or most most successful, but the 95% of people are also kind of the most gloomy, taking the subway into work. So a city like that is a city like London, New York, it's a city that is very effective with my concepts. So the reason I come to London is I have a lot of one-on-one clients. I have a lot of guys in my mastermind. We've had quite a few guys in our mastermind through London. So I probably spent 3 or 4 months there just last year.
Sick. And you'll be there again? Didn't you say May, or what was it? I forgot.
I'm there about a week to a week and a half a month.
In a week and what did you say? In a week.
I'm there about a week to 2 weeks a month. I'm in London. So
every month.
Every month.
Dude. Yeah, dude. Honestly, like maybe we'll make it happen. I want to go later this year. I might go to Austin. Literally to see Joe Rogan in the mothership, because I just want to go there. So.
Yeah. Every time I think about going, I'm like, how do I time those? He's definitely going to be there. It's not like he's there.
Right. I'm also like, I don't want to go there and then he's traveling and I'm like, God damn it, now I gotta come again.
Some UFC fight or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's kind of funny, man. Dude, I haven't been in the US since I think last time we saw each other, 2018, 2019 or something like that. Because then the whole COVID thing happened and you could only get in there with like whatever restrictions and stuff like that. And then I just haven't been there. So I really miss that place. I miss Austin, New York, and I also miss Hawaii. Like, I want to live in Hawaii with my girlfriend. I keep telling her that we just like fly there and just live there for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And I'm just gonna do my business from there, and whatever. And we just do yoga every day outside or something like that. Now you
Yeah,
mentioned Europe.
Hawaii is a place where when you first fly there, literally getting off the plane, you think that you're never going to leave it. And
Yeah.
then after a few weeks or a month, you start to want the speed of a New York again a little bit. But I can see that for sure. Definitely let me know when you're in Austin. We can definitely maybe plan it.
Dude, that would be so sick. So sick. Dude, talk about Hawaii again real quick. Do you remember we rented, I can't remember if it was you or Mikhail who rented that Jeep? And then we drove through the city at night with the Jeep deck off, and we're just like standing in the back, like yelling around.
Yeah, that's kind of the funny thing is it's like at the end of the day, you don't want to lose that because those are some of the best memories.
Yeah, it was you. It was you, I, and Mikhail. I think it was us three.
I think it was
anybody else on that stupid Jeep?
I don't even think there was anybody in the streets. Like it was
1, 2 a.m. in the morning. Oh, I was there when I had the 2 camera guys from Denmark.
Yeah, those 2 guys. There's so many stories of those.
They ended up. I love these guys. I'm still in touch with them every now and then, and we ran out of beds at the Airbnb that they had to share a bed.
Yeah,
and, we were like, somebody has to share a bed. And yep, we'll do it.
They volunteered a little too quickly.
Yeah, and then they a little too quickly. And then we had a bed free again, and they kept sharing the bed. It was like, what? Hey guys, the other bed is free right there. Remember
we bring love connection together wherever we go. I was like, I'm looking at you and thinking, but there's an open bed now. Why are your camera?
You have more space over there. I love these guys. It was so epic. It was so fucking epic. That just popped back in my head. Oh man. And then what was I going to say? So here's one interesting thing I wanted to ask you. So as a European now looking into a place like New York, I think I'm getting so crazily brainwashed right now that like New York is falling apart. It's run over by immigrants and stuff like that, and like people just looting the stores and the police is just watching. Is it really like that? What's going on?
It's not like that at all. I mean, like when I walk around here about them, I literally don't see any of the migrants that people are talking about on TV. I've never seen them.
Like where are they? Where's the migrants?
I actually asked a friend, and they're like, "Oh, they're by the airport in some tent city." I'm like, to me, migrants. If you're from New York, which I'm not, but I can consider myself a New Yorker. When you're walking around, migrants are just the humans around you. I mean, everybody is so multicultural. You can't be anti-gay or racist in New York, or you will literally. You won't know anybody. It's New Yorkers. It's just this melting pot of people, bumping into each other, coexisting and around each other. That it's all blown out of proportion. I mean, obviously, there's probably some statistics, and there's probably people. If you turn on the news, right, you will think that it's this crumbling city on fire. If you walk around
that's what it looks like.
If you walk around New York City, you think it's this beautiful city, and everyone's just living their life, having a good time. It hasn't changed 1% for me in the past 5 to 10 years since I've been going there.
I'm so happy to hear that because I remember I had the best times ever in New York. I would always, when I was on tour, New York was always on the schedule because it was one of the biggest cities, and it was right at the East Coast. So I would always fly in from Europe. First stop would always be New York, and then Miami, LA, Vegas, and so on and so forth. And it sounds so stupid, European village boy from Austria, but you walk in on the street and the skyline just. And you're just staring up like an idiot. And you're just like, damn, it's so huge. And people and everything is so fast. And it's really, really freaking awesome, man. So, yeah, dude.
Yeah, for me, I thought I wanted that beach lifestyle and the laptop in the Thailand, or the laptop, in Bali kind of thing. And then after 2-3 days of it, I need that skyline of New York for me personally. I could never do the Thailand, Bali, Colombia, that whole thing for me, I realize that the clients that I have are in major cities. The friends I have are in major cities. Yeah. My lifestyle is definitely much more a city lifestyle for sure. It's just very inspiring. But then again, I think you need a balance of both. I mean, to get away from that for a little bit and then kind of come back makes you appreciate it more.
Yeah, dude. You have you been even to a lot of places in Europe? I don't even know, man. You were always kind of like the US/London guy.
I just love America so much. I love the American city. I love the American city so much. I've been to most places in Europe, but I don't need to do the Eastern European kind of corridor. For me, if I do Milan a lot. I do basically if there's a fashion event, if there's a culture event, I do it. But I'm not gonna do Warsaw randomly. I didn't really ever see the appeal for that for what I do and my clients. But I've done, again, Paris Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week. We do pretty much every year. We do Ibiza every year.
Sick.
We do Cannes. Pretty much just those cities. But for the most part, the best thing I can do is build my social circle in New York, London, as strong as possible, and then share that with my clients, and then show them how to do it in all the different. We have chapters of we have chapters of guys in various cities all over the world implementing our concepts. But I feel for me, it's best to kind of man New York.
Amen, man. Amen. I did visit Paris for the first time last year ever as a European to see Metallica. So that was fucking cool, man.
Yeah, that's a good reason, because Paris is different than you think it's going to be when you get there. At least it was for me. And
100%. I mean, I've been told that it's really, really bad now. It used to be much prettier. I didn't really have a problem, but also on the other hand, I just went there to see Metallica and it was awesome. And by the way, we went there and right behind us, there was a little, there was a light thing, and around the light was a closed off area, and it was Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz was just passing by to check out Metallica. It was really freaking awesome. So he was right behind us, because I saw some stories of him, and I'm like, damn, that's right behind me. That was funny. He didn't join the mosh pit though. He was just outside.
That's probably a good idea.
Pussy. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Shit, it's Lenny Kravitz.
If he was a real Metallica fan.
If he had been a real Metallica fan, it is exactly. But here's the crazy thing, dude. I've seen Metallica, I think, 8 times or 9 times. They were my first festival concert in 2015. No, sorry, in 2005. Not 2015. 2005. First fest. I was 15 years old. I tried to be in the first row. I got crushed at Motorhead, who were playing before them. So I had to kind of get pulled out by the security. But then actually, I remember, dude, because it was a festival, right? So they were headliner of the festival day 2, and that means the gates open at 12 noon, and there's 20 band or 10 bands before that, and then the last one is Metallica. So I was 15 years old. I was I'm gonna go there around noon already, so I'll be in the first row, and then all I have to do is just stand there for 10 hours until 10, from 12 to 10, until Metallica start playing. So I remember I'm waiting in the line for the doors to open, and then you were kind of they would open the doors, and then everybody ran about half a mile to the actual first row of the stage. And just in front of me, there was only one guy waiting, and it was a fat guy. And I'm like, fuck, I gotta outrun this guy. And then they open the doors, and me and him start running. I was right behind him. And I'm like, damn, this guy is fast for his weight. And it turns out he was running towards the food truck. He's it's just stages this way, and he's just starting to weir off towards the food. And I'm like, hey, buddy, all right, buddy. So,
I was that guy before.
Yeah. I'm allowed to say that because I also used to be fat as a teenager, and I got my fair share of fun made of me back then. But anyways, so I'm standing in the first row, first band, second band, third band, and it was 35 degrees Celsius, glaring hot sun. You couldn't drink, because if you drank too much, you had to go to the bathroom. You give up your first row spot. You're just collapsing halfway there. And then I make it through all the bands. I got kicked in the face 6 times by crowd surfers, with Doc Martens, metal boots and stuff like that. And then there was only one last band before them, and that was Motorhead. God bless Lemmy Kilmister. And I heard a couple behind me whispering, in the break in between when there was no music. They were oh, I heard Motorhead is the loudest band in the world. And I'm like, fuck. Well, I brought my little earplugs, right? I had earplugs for exactly that, right? So Motorhead starts playing the first song, and they were so loud that in my ears were just you couldn't even make out the song. It was just Motorhead. And I'm taking out my earplugs, and I put them in, and I'm I'm all set. Boom, get kicked in my face, earplug falls out, never to be found again. So I'm standing there, and then it just got worse and worse and worse after the third or fourth song. And I was 15 at that age. I had no muscle mass, no nothing. And I'm okay, I got to get out of here. And then you can't just leave, because there's 70,000 people behind you. There was no wave breakers. That was the last year. on major events where they had the wave breaker concept wasn't invented yet, I guess. So it was just like there was just like 1,000 rows behind you. You were for row 1, and there was like 999 other rows. So you can't just turn around and say "see ya" because there's just people. So what you have to do is you have to coordinate. I don't know why I'm talking about this. This is a business podcast with Luke Krogh. Talk about Metallica. So you have to coordinate with like the 10 people around you and be like, guys, I'm gonna be pulled out by the security over there. We're gonna count to 3, and I need everyone to push back. So it was literally like 1, 2, 3, and everybody was like the 300 Spartans, like push, push. So just enough space for me to breathe, and then the security bouncer guy would like pull me out like a sardine, and then you're out, and that's it. So that's how you survive.
I can't. I've ever been in that situation,
dude. That is Metallica, and funny enough, now I mean, freaking almost 20 years later. When I go to a concert, like I got muscle mass, like same would be for you. Like people don't fuck with you anymore, because like you're like one of the bigger guys. So when you're in the mosh pit, people like respectfully push you a little bit, and like it really doesn't bother you as much anymore. You still kind of feel like a sardine, but you can just push people away and stuff like that. And funny enough,
I think this mosh pit example is like a really good. I think it's a really good metaphor for kind of this entire podcast that we've been doing here, right? It's like this idea when you're first getting started, you're getting shoved around, you're kind of eaten alive, but you still have this, but you almost still have the exact same experience as later.
So
now you're in the mosh pit, but now you're totally comfortable in being in that mosh pit. You know what I mean? It's like
100%.
Putting yourself in the ringer.
In fact, I would almost argue, and this is really funny because I had that discussion the other day with a friend of mine, and he's like, dude, like, why don't you just get like VIP tickets where you're like standing or you're like sitting somewhere nicely with a drink in your hand? And every time I go get a concert ticket for bands like Metallica, there are the VIP snake pit thingies where you're standing in the middle, you have like a nice view to the stage, and I'm like, what? No, I want to be in the pit. I want to be there with everyone else.
You know what's funny is even we talk about these the courtside seat thing I was talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Even there, the people that you act like the people that are having the most fun are actually in the lounge watching the TV on the TVs that are in the VIP lounge. Don't get me wrong, right? It's still, but like you have to have a courtside seat to be there. But a lot of those courtside seats are empty because people are actually laughing, having a good time, watching the game on TV inside the lounge. So like again, it's like I think a lot of people do things for the wrong reasons. It's like go to that concert and get the VIP ticket to impress the girl or to stand there and have your drink in your hand and be boring. That's not, you kind of lost sight of why you actually went to the concert in the first place, or why you're trying to meet you can't lose sight of the reason why you liked Metallica in the first place, or why I want to go to the game courtside is, again, if it's to have fun with the people that are there, that I'm not sitting there just glued to the game. It's talking to the other people, right?
Dude, that is it. Like, don't lose track of why you're in it for the first place. That goes full circle with what we talked about before. Is like you still want to be the fun guy. You still want to be the childish, funny Luke. I still want to get the tattoos. Like, that's it. Like, don't forget why you're in it for in the first place. Because here's the crazy part. Like, a lot of people ask me, Max, now that you're in your 30s, what's your advice for guys in your 30s? And I always say the same. It's like, don't allow life and all the shit that's been thrown at you over the years to turn you bitter. Don't ever fucking allow that. And I see this, it's almost like you're charging at an army together with all the same friends that are roughly your same age, and you're just seeing your friends drop one after the other, to your left, to your right, because they all at some point turn bitter and give up. And that's where they, become unhealthy, they stop thriving, they stop striving, and they just allow all the shit that's thrown at you as a man or as an adult for that matter, to allow them to turn bitter, because the world can be fucking cruel. The world can be fucking unfair.
Look, the thing is the bitter thing. I mean, you can either get bitter or you can get better, right? The bitter thing is, it's very easy to get bitter, right? You have to feel yourself getting, it's very easy to get bitter in the relationship you're in, and then appreciating the woman you're with you less. And then, there's this quote, or there's this thing that I heard the other day that I really like a lot. It's like, if everybody just did the things they did after a breakup to get the new person, if they just would have done that, they would have been happier, and just the relationship would have never ended in the first place. It's like, but we don't do those things until the pain of the bitterness happens in the meantime. So,
dude, that's a very, very good point. It's a very good point. So yeah, like I said, like don't allow it to turn you bitter, and like I said, like remember why you're in this in the first place. Like, I started a business in the first place. Ultimately, like my first business idea, to become a professional poker player so I can make like $50 a day so I can travel around with the RSD guys and have a free life. Like, that's why I got in it in the first place. And then I became a dating coach and I started traveling the world. And then at some point, you kind of lose sight of your priorities of like, well, listen, if you just give up on this thing, you could make so much more money. If you just say that, like, if you stop swearing in your videos, Max, like, you could draw a richer crowd. And then you start making these small, tiny concessions, maybe small concessions that bring you further and further away from why you were in this in the first place. And next thing you know, you're 33, 34, 35, and you're looking at the course that you wanted to go into the first and how far you strave off that course. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not why I'm in it. The last years I sold my soul.
Yeah, it's why I wouldn't, there was, so you ask, like, leaving RSD and a lot of that, it was, YouTube culture at the time was, don't mention, a lot of kind of the advice was, don't mention men or women. Don't, you have to change. And I was like, I'm only going to be a men's coach, right? I'm only going to teach men how to network with higher status men, more attractive women, and build their personal brand around that, right? Yeah. I'm never going to be a coach for women. So for me, it was, there was a lot of that kind of, whether it's these like micro adjustments or these kind of more macro, again, you have to have these things predetermined, or death by 1,000 cuts. Betatization by 1,000 concessions is just going to happen. I call it the motorcycle theory with women, where if you're, you drive the motorcycle, you take the girl out on a first date, throw her on the back of the motorcycle. She likes you because you're this guy with the motorcycle. You get into a relationship with her. She tells you to wear a helmet because it's not safe. In your mind, you're like, yeah, I probably should just wear the helmet. All right, okay, you're right. It's not a big deal. Wear the helmet. And then she tells you a month later, you should probably sell the motorcycle. You don't really need the motorcycle anymore. You sell the motorcycle, and she leaves you for the neighbor who drives a motorcycle with no helmet, right? It's like, it wasn't about the fucking motorcycle, right? You probably should, you know what I'm saying? It's this motorcycle example of betatization by 1,000 concessions is, you don't want to get bitter, but at the same time, you have to, not make these concessions.
Sheesh, man, we're spilling the valley here today, dude. It feels like an old school RSD video. Right. Dude, talk about videos. So I know the business model back in the days for you was shoot free videos, go do free tours, post on social media, and so on and so forth. How does your business work right now? Because I don't see you posting as much. Whenever you do post, it's something really baller, like the courtside game post that I saw of you lately. I'm like, damn, Luke is working crushing. But how exactly does your business work now? How are you drawing leads? How does it work?
Yeah, so for 2 years, it was all referral, right? I mean, it was guy who gets the results, passes me on to the next guy who wants similar results. It was very high ticket. It was very me go to their city and build that. And a lot of the clients I had at the time, I couldn't really post what I was doing on social media, right? Whether it was an NDA, my highest level guys in London, for example, there's not a lot of posting that can be done in some ways because the social circles I'm building are so private. I mean, most of the venues I go to in London, phones aren't even allowed. They put a sticker over your camera. So for me, it was like, all right, what am I like? I felt like I was putting my foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. But then I knew that there was a time period where that was going to be up, and I was going to open my coaching back up again. And one, that had to do with being the man that I knew I wanted to be from a physical standpoint. Two, it was I want to start coaching guys that maybe didn't have the funds to for me to go to their city and coach them one-on-one. And then three, it was posting's fun. I really enjoyed the posting schedule I had before. So for 2 years, it was referral, high-level client, one-on-one coaching. And now it's going to be a lot more content that you're going to see.
Nice.
That's why I started posting on my main page. And I also have my Inner Circle page as well, where I'm going to post free content, maybe clips of this I'll put on that page as well. And I'm just going to really give a good inside look. Again, when it's all one-on-one coaching implementation, there's not as much ideas that I wanted to necessarily be put out there, right? It was a lot more, I was working pretty much 28 days a month, just focused on implementing social circles. Whereas now I want to give that content out there, a lot more content for free. And then also in my, my entry level program, which is Elevated Inner Circle. I literally allow people to attend the in-person events that I do. I pick and choose who they are based on fit. But again, there's a guy who paid $100 a month and he's coming to the Ryan Garcia fight with us in the box. And obviously I'm going to be getting lots of content around that and showing it. And then I still have, I still have our core mastermind as well, which is the main business, which is mostly referral. But again, now that I am, it didn't feel congruent to be cranking out content when I was at a place where I was still not where I wanted to be. So I want to take that time in order to do that, and that's why you start to see me post a lot more again. And then the clients that we have in that in my mastermind, I mean, there's some of the highest level guys that you could meet. It's guys that you would never expect, need the help in some ways.
Yeah.
It's because they want to reach a different level. And again, it's building your social circle is the most effective personal branding strategy you can have from a high level. And then a lot of stuff that you teach your guys about the actual content and the tactics, it just makes it work that much better.
Yeah, it's like an amplification of what you do in real life. It's a multiplying factor. Yeah.
It's really, I only offer three things, right? I have my $9 a month program, my 10K program, and then I have my mastermind, which is 25K, right? And one thing I've always felt very protective about the concepts, because my one-on-one coaching is a lot higher than that. Because if I'm teaching all these concepts in a city that's, there's only 3 or 4 venues that any of my clients need to be going to in a certain city. And in a matter of 3 or 4 days, I can get them the result if I do it for them. But if they're doing it themselves, it takes about 1 to 3 months if they have a normal work schedule, right? So I felt very protective over some of these concepts because, again, in London, there's one hotel that I stay at. There's two nightlife venues that pretty much 89% of my clients should be going to. For example, that hotel has like 30 rooms. To get a bottle service table, for example, in the club, in the lounge of that of that property, you need a room. You can't actually even get a table. It's where Leonardo DiCaprio stays. It's where a lot of these types of people have their birthday parties, right? And a lot of my clients want to be in the mix, right? And again, it's not about like name dropping or whatever. It's just about kind of a setting. And a lot of guys don't want necessarily that level of success, but the one-on-one clients that I had did. So, for example, I can't teach 100 guys how to invade that and like this is Sparta, kick their way into that kind of environment. But I'm very good at getting into an environment like that and then having the red carpet kind of rolled out for you. So what I realized is there was a lot of guys who wanted a different version of that, and it was scalable to different cities because those 3 venues. For example, that's a lot more pretentious than what your average software developer in London necessarily wants. Maybe he wants the more artistic type of people in Shoreditch, for example, than where I am at, which is closer to Mayfair, Marylebone kind of area, right? If you just take London as an example. So once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay, well, if my thing is social networking, right? I created this whole social concept. What I really need to be doing, I was kind of against the whole podcast thing because I saw all these dating podcasts that were just not anything at all that I would really. It's just so not on my radar at all that I'd even want to do or be a part of. That I started to realize though, most of the high level men that other men look up to have either gone through my coaching or are friends of mine. So
nice.
What I actually decided to do is literally shoot. I shot my second podcast on, for my podcast a couple of days ago, being edited. So what kind of to cap off what we were talking about before, as I was thinking about this when we took our break, is I realized I can put out all this content because what is a perfect social circle to you versus me versus Brian over here is very different, but the underlying concepts are the same. So I'm basically going to interview a lot of clients. I'm going to interview a lot of guys in my mastermind. I'm going to interview guys that are, just whether it's in nightlife. I have a guy that I know that he's got 1,900 followers on Instagram, but knows every owner and every manager pretty much of the top modeling agencies. This guy, if from a dating perspective, being friends with this guy, you would never really have to do any cold approaching again for the rest of your life. But he's got 1,900 followers in a private account. I have a client in New York he's worth like $3.5 billion. He's 40 years old, getting into movies. So he actually is going to be at some of the film festivals, right? Nice. So like what I started to realize is I actually can interview these people, pull the concepts out about what they've learned from me. So to kind of answer your other question is, I'm gonna really push the content angle because even if somebody doesn't feel they need or want to sign up for proper coaching, I want to still help them through the interesting podcast, I think, because the lifestyle that my clients and I live, it is a little bit of a different kind of parallel universe to how a lot of people operate, getting into these places. Because we're not, a lot of these things are not, excuse me. A lot of these things you can't buy your way into. A lot of these experiences. It's like if somebody tells me that they want to like a backstage experience with Metallica, because Metallica is their number one thing. Maybe you don't want the cunty VIP. Let's say you have the 9-figure business or whatever, and you don't want to be amongst everybody. Do you want the private experience with Metallica? I have Ray is doing a private, literally after like 2 conversations, she's doing a private music performance for a very special event that I have, coming up in London, and it's literally just going to be like a 20-person performance. She literally just performed at Coachella in front of thousands of people, One of my favorite like R&B hip hop artists. His name is Mayor Capella. He just did a thing. He just did a song called. Well, the song came out a while ago, but it's called Gallus. It's a much more urban song than what you're used to, Max. It's not exactly like I'm much more into hip hop and R&B. But again, I was able to take him courtside to the Nets. How would I have ever met this guy? So it's like the high status thing. I'm still this farmer hick from Wisconsin at the end of the day. I remember, waking up, when I was 5 years old to like literally milk cows. Like we're talking about cow taps. I literally grew up on a farm. I had a cow my first pet was a cow named Betsy that I milked. Or that I fed milk to, rather. I didn't milk, I fed milk too. So like, it's kind of funny when I think about this. I don't want guys to get so kind of hung up in this like high status kind of version of it, because it's a currency that we use. So for example, I'm literally going to be showing people how I was able to get those high status things in order to bring that more liveliness into your life. It's, if I wasn't able to do the courtside angle, I wouldn't have been able to meet one of my favorite up and coming artists, because how else would you have connected with that person? But now he's willing to perform literally at my condo, again, for no charge, just as a friendly performance, similar to Ray, the music artist, or some of these other people that you're seeing. So, well, I think a big shift was me realizing that I can just give away all of the content, because it's not, someone else could come up with some of this stuff, and at the same time, other people can implement it. Your Metallica is my Mayor Capella, so we all have these versions of it.
And if you ever do have some sort of private thing with Metallica, hit me up, man. I'm down. All right, I'm the guy. Forget everybody else.
What's really funny is I met one of this series got kind of weird, but the first season of this show called Billions. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the first season was really good. But Bobby Axelrod character in the show basically sets up a private performance with Metallica, and you got Metallica's like in the TV show. And I kind of laughed because one of the first courtsides, it's kind of funny when you fangirl over something. It's like a fan of yours ever meets you in person. They're like, to you, when that first time it started happening to me, I was like, come on, have a drink or come have a seat or whatever. It didn't really I love when those things happen, but I almost didn't understand it, because not a lot of people that I would fangirl over. But the funny part about that is there's this character called Dollar Bill in the show Billions, who again Bobby Axelrod sees before he flies his private performance to see Metallica, and then here I am getting his phone number. One of my favorite actors, who's he's not like a huge actor, but I'm sitting 3 seats away, and the person I was like, do the thing that you do. Go say hi to this person. I'm like, I can't. That's Dollar Bill from the show Billions. I can't go up and say hi to this person. Meanwhile, I'm teaching you know what I mean? It's that feeling kind of still came up inside. So of course I went up and said hi. I think this thing called future projecting with people that are in time bridging, where you then set up a future thing with them. So then we exchange WhatsApps, and now we're WhatsApping. But what do I have in common with this 45, 50-year-old actor, I guess. He's not actually the character from, in my mind, he was this cutthroat guy from the character. He's the character. So I'm I'm literally calling him his name, and I'm refusing to use his real name as we're talking. Because to me, that would break the magic of it. But again, it's you brought up a lot of interesting things about it's kind of funny, because I'm still that farmer hick from Wisconsin who is in these high status environments. It's the Metallica thing. It's the don't lose. I think that's the way to not end up being so numb to things, is don't forget the reason why you're at Metallica or why I'm courtside.
Yeah.
What's the real reason? What's the real inner joy of it? Is it to take the Instagram photo? I did these dope things the past 2 years privately, and I just didn't post about it. It's are you doing it just for the post? I've realized that me posting is actually not for me. It's for the people who need to get to this level. So it's one, posting things not to brag, but to inspire. And then two, I'm going to follow a lot of the content that you talk about and you teach to actually share it with more people.
Dude, amen to that. And it's funny because that was also one of the first lessons that I remember I learned from Owen. It was this whole if you want to be friends with someone, don't ask for a selfie, right? And it's almost like you can only do one of these two things. You can get the selfie and brag about your friends, or you don't, and you're just a fucking normal dude. And I remember that it was exactly the same for me. When I was the unpaid chode assistant flying into Miami to help out Owen, I had all my RSD fan friends at home, and they were all like, send us a selfie with Owen. And I think the first fucking photo or video of me and Owen was when he asked me to be in a video together with him. And that was 7 months in or something like that.
Yep.
Before that, I never even had a photo. And that's really, really key. That's an important lesson, for the famous person in this case, Owen, or in the example of Metallica, is like the moment you ask for a photo, they categorize you. Oh, fan. I'll give them the
Yeah.
photo, no problem. Shake their hand. I'll ask them how they're doing, and that's it. But if you don't ask for the photo and you're just cool, you just treat them like a normal fucking human being, and you have fun. Now they're like, oh, this is just another person. In fact, not only are you another person like that is cool, but also they would probably interpret you as roughly of similar status as them, because they're like, they don't need the
Yeah.
photo with me.
Yeah. I mean, I have it's almost a 2-hour video on this. It's in this exact topic. I call it leveling behavior, where it's leveling. It's like similar to one of the concepts I have is if you're ever at dinner or if you're ever grabbing drinks with somebody who's worth more than you should always pick up the tab, for example.
Yeah.
And we have I have this whole like way of getting these comps with these different venues where like the bill, I call it bill never comes. So like the first time that you meet that person, if you take the selfie, you'll never have that dinner or that drink session because that selfie kills that.
Yeah.
I mean, the fan of the person is almost like the guy who's looking up to the girl that he could never get, kind of. It's this leveling behavior. Similar to then one thing, a concept that I teach directly is bill never comes. So like if you ever come and eat with us like in New York, or if you ever next time you go there, the places that we go to, not only will it be like a credit card roulette or whatever of like, oh, who's going to pay, or we put our cards in, the bill just, I have this concept where everything is predetermined ahead of time. So the bill just never comes.
Nice.
When the celebrity or the high status person sees that you're the cause of that, it could be $100 bill, it could be $1,000 bill, but if the bill just never comes, they just experience this thing with you. Again, it's now they're looking at you as this, it changes the level of how the perspective is, how they look at themselves and versus how they look at you. Right. The other thing is, I think, it's interesting about that selfie concept, right? Because this could be a 5-hour episode, right? If we kind of keep talking about this, but you want to look at that. Don't take the selfie concept in every part of your life, right? Like it's back to the original point of the delusional confidence, and like it's like visions of grandeur. Like you have to look at yourself as this superhero in the making, and you're just building up this superhero character. And there's going to be flaws. There's going to be issues that come along the way, but the whole point of that is don't take the selfie.
Amen. Don't take the damn selfie. Don't take the fucking damn selfie. Yeah, dude, we got like a couple more minutes of time. What's your plan, man? What are you gonna do now? So you rebuilt yourself. You've reemerged from the ashes. The Phoenix is alive. Is alive. You look younger, my man. You're looking happy. You're looking healthy. You're fucking crushing it. I love seeing that. Really, I want to put this at this point too, man. Like, as someone that I consider very much a friend, a brother, even though we haven't talked in a very, very long time, I'm so fucking hyped to see you crushing it. I'm so grateful to see you. You look so fucking happy. You look so fucking there. Like, I fucking love it. And I know at our age, it's becoming to not be the norm to be happy and well achieved and awake in the eyes. And it's really fucking cool that you are. So I'm happy that I know you, man. I'm happy to see you happy and healthy and all that jazz. What's next? What are you doing? What's your goals?
Yeah, I mean, next is to take the concepts that I've shown everybody, that I've done personally, and then share it with more people. We shot 2 episodes of my own podcast so far. Elevated Inner Circle. That is the networking group for highest achieving men that you can think of, that I'm building and adding more value to that group. The big thing for me was making it scalable, because it's, again, I could doing these concepts and really internalizing that. My version of courtside seats, your version of backstage with Metallica, that inner goal that we all had at 17, that like 17-year-old like goal of like who we wanted, what's the dream person we could have dinner with, or that whole concept of that question is, if you could have dinner with anybody, who would it be? You kind of list like your 3 people. It's like dead or alive. Like, who are the 3 people you'd want to have dinner with tomorrow if you could have dinner with anybody? My thing is I can make that actually happen, and I just want to show more people how to make that happen. There's literally, I mean, I had a client just go to Necker Island with Richard Branson. It was about 8 weeks of planning. And it wasn't just like it wasn't a fan kind of thing. It was like a actual, couple of days integrated on Necker Island with Richard Branson. There's nobody that I can't get you access to, female or male. And I just want to show that to more people and really open up the concepts that I've been doing privately, and share that with more people from a business perspective. And then personally also, a lot of it is the health journey. I mean, a lot of it has been realizing that there's no pot of gold at the end of the health rainbow. It's there's new things that, seeing you kind of like get in better. It's like for every new ab you got 3 new tattoos like every year. And you kind of get more jacked, and then there'd always be like a new tattoo on Max. It's kind of like my version of that, to be honest. You know, I mean, getting tattoos was a decision I've always wanted to have, but I never wanted to be like, I didn't want to be the fat guy with tattoos. So for me, part of my motivation of getting in shape was literally to get tattoos. And I think that tattoos are kind of, you have to do it for the right reason, rather than just kind of like the tribal, the barbed wire around your arms, or like kind of the random thing. And so for me, it's the number one thing I think of is every day is how do I help my clients and friends achieve the results that I've achieved from a social circle perspective. And then constantly again, green, growing, and ripe and rotting, just constantly being on my own journey with my own, the mentors that I have in the, I call it my own board of advisors, right? And constantly not lying to myself and improving myself, and being the person that I wanted to be. I'd ask you the same question though. Where's the direction for you? I mean, I've passively watched your stuff. We've interacted on WhatsApp and IG, kind of randomly over the past year. And it's it's like, where do you take your business and life from here? Is it locking things in the way they are and having kids and focusing on that, because that takes time? Is it where do you take the business?
It's really funny because like what I've always kind of been doing is like I've had an idea of roughly the direction I want to go, and then I just talk to as many people I can that I look up to, and I ask them questions about what they feel like. So kind of what's been in my mind lately was like family versus business. Do I want to commit more in the next 5 years, and just business, and then build family, marry my girlfriend, get kids? Do I want to do it now and kind of keep the business on maintenance, or do you want to balance both? Can I balance both? So funny enough, like part of this podcast, the last 30 episodes, was just me asking everyone about like, so what about the kids, the family, the business, and how do you balance it? And I'm starting to see the patterns now. And funny enough, I was under the impression of like, okay, I got to do the business and I got to crush it and fully exit until I can commit to family. And almost all the people that I talk to, they're like, oh, I do both.
Yeah, just not how it works. I thought the same thing. And then I thought the time and everything else, if anything, it gave me instant, having your first kid, or even the announcement that you're going to have really, that's what it really is. I mean, it's so life-changing, that announcement, that it shifts things in your mind, and you actually have more time. It doesn't suck the time away that you thought it did. My advice would be to every man who's in his 30s doing well is have kids as fast as possible. Have kids as early as possible. I mean, it really is. I mean, I want 3 more. I mean, if it was 100% up to me, I would have 3 more. I mean, it's it gives you that, again, it gives you that youthful energy that you, in a lot of ways, that you kind of like lost along the way of building the business. But at the same time, it just refocuses you. It gives you another reason, another purpose. It's now not just about the clients. It's also about the family. It's also about where, kind of how you want to come across as a father. There's like another maturing almost when you like start your business, then you start helping your clients have a lot of success. Then it's a more matter of now, how do you shape these, how do you shape this child or these children? But even more so, it's who do you have to then level yourself up to be in order to make the correct actions for them? I mean, if I definitely, my first daughter, to some degree, saved my life in a lot of ways. I mean, the actions that I was taking compared to the actions I'm taking now, it's odd. You actually, as long as obviously you pick the right partner, and that's the first, that's definitely the first step. But as long as you know that you have the right partner for it, it actually gives you more time. And I think it's by far definitely my purpose for sure. So I'd recommend it for sure.
Dude, I'm gonna take your answer and all the other answers I got from that. I'm gonna cut it together and I'll show it to like my kids on their 18th birthday or something like. That's why you're here.
I thought you were gonna say you're gonna end this podcast and go pump a kid out right now.
Yeah, babe, I'm coming. I'm flying back to my girlfriend's
Luke gave me the
right
keys.
now. It's like prepare. I'm on my way.
Get ready.
Get ready. I'm on my way. No, like yeah. To answer your question, man, like you can literally, like, if someone were to watch like the first episode of where I'm starting to get guests on, because this is like the 200 something episode, and I started getting guests like 30 episodes ago or something like that. One could literally like see me changing my mind about getting kids. Suddenly, I feel like it accumulated to this episode right now. So to answer your question, business-wise, I want to crack $1 million a month. We want to crack the 8 figures, not because I need it, but because it's more like I want to see that I can do it, and it rolls so nicely off the tongue. $1 million a month.
Yeah.
I want to be able. I want to give so much to the people in the team that will be at the level of us getting $1 million a month. I want to throw like an epic party, like we made $1 million a month, like a Wolf of Wall Street kind of party without the debauchery, like a PC version of that. I want to do that. I want to keep building up the brand. I mean, like you know how it is. Like we've built a very big brand within RSD at first, kind of like as like an independent person together in a collaboration with RSD. And now I'm rebuilding this one here. So I kind of want to rebuild the brand because I love that. I love creating content. I can create content all day long, just like you. So I want to keep doing that. So get $1 million a month, doing what I have been doing because I fucking love it. And also, weird quotes from Max. And also get married and get kids. A lot of kids. And then I want to get a farm, a big house with one or multiple goats so I can get goat cheese and goat milk. I want to have a cherry tree. I want to have like my little vegetable garden. I want to have a deal with a farmer next to me where I get high quality steaks all day long. I want to have my own chicken so I can get chicken eggs all day. Like I basically want to build a self-sustaining farm with high-speed internet where I could just make a ton of money and have kids there. And I want to have a music studio in the basement. I just want to create music again. Like I used to do a lot of music and I kind of still am passionate of mine. I'm just not doing it as much. So I want to have a music studio and maybe, like create songs with my kids, just like have the kid enter the music studio and there's all the instruments. There's the drums, DJ stuff, bongos, singing, guitars. And I'm just like, go to whichever you like, right? And then we're going to double down on that. And then how funny would it be? I mean, you could do it. You got 3 kids. You could literally make a band with your kids. One is drummer, the other one's guitarist, and you just play Rammstein together and shit like that,
Yeah. My oldest dream is to be a violinist. So it's funny to see. I'm less musically inclined than you are than she is, but it's but yeah, I mean like that again. It's like building that army for yourself. Whether that's the army or whatever. I mean, it's funny how like you have to. One thing I thought was really funny the other day, and we can kind of wrap it up with this is, when I was younger, the only meat we had was meat that we hunted. Right. We did a lot of hunting. I got my first gun when I was, 6 years old or something. Wow. I have a lot of guns now. Shooting's a big hobby of mine. But, it's funny because, we only had grass-fed steak. That's all. It was literally like meat we hunted and then packaged ourselves. And I felt so humbled, like a farmer hick poor. Like I felt so low level about the fact that like, we were just with only meat that we ate was meat that we hunted. But then you go to a steakhouse and it's like you work hard to go get this grass-fed steak now in a steakhouse or in Erewhon or Whole Foods or what have you. And it's this like expensive, more, thing that you like attain to be able to have all the time, thinking that now eventually the goal is also that farm life to some degree, right? It's like, it's kind of funny, the circle of life that we kind of all go in. Is that you just, that was kind of what I had anyway, just without, you had to kind of come to the full circle, I guess, to achieve the thing you had in the first place. Yeah. It was kind of an interesting revelation with it. I think you make a good point with that, where it's like, whether you're in the Cypress thing or whether you're in the major city thing, it all is kind of to then have that, that more rural life that you just described. I mean, if I have that, for example, my kids, right, it's a very like the eggs from the local farmer kind of lifestyle for them. It's a very, organic, holistic. It's interesting to see the like up and down struggles that we go through to then eventually just create the situation that we want to give to them,
Yeah. Amen to that, man. Amen to that. Well, dude, we've touched on so many points. It's been really, really awesome catching up with you, man. Let's do it in person. Let's hang out in London next time. I mean, if you come that often anyways, man, it's going to be super, super dope, man.
London, or maybe we plan a mothership, Joe Rogan, Austin extravaganza.
Yes. Amen to that, dude. Amen to that. And if you get inspired by this and you say, oh my God, like Luke is crushing, Max is crushing. I also want to inspire people. I want to grow a brand. I want to have an online coaching business. I want to get started. Then I have some real cool for you. You can now hop on a free consultation call with me and my team. All you have to do is head over to maxtornow.com/call. You fill out the application and then you can book the exact date and time for the call. This is also for you if you're already making money as a coach, consultant, or service provider and you're saying, hey, I want to grow, I want to automate. How can I make more? Max, can you help me? Yes, we can. It's the same URL for you, maxtornow.com/call. call. Just indicate that you already have a business that you want to grow and scale. There's a little questionnaire thingy where you can put all that info in. And other than that, thank you so much for watching and listening, and talk to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.